Good morning, everyone. Mike and Corey here today with 3 or 4 exciting topics. 23andMe. If you have done 23andMe, unfortunately, they filed for bankruptcy, but we're going to talk about data because that's really what they hold is your genetic data. Another interesting thing that I saw was GameStop putting Bitcoin on their balance sheet. And if you remember from a year or two ago, we had that GameStop meme stock craze. I think it might be starting up again, at least with that one. And then Corey's going to continue on with his analysis into DoorDash and buy now, pay later for lunch, and as well as a quick check on the commodities. So as we get started, must remind you this is a financial education presentation. You must do your own due diligence on anything that you hear in this presentation. More disclaimer information can be found on ankerstarwealth.com, and the opinions expressed are mine and Corey's alone. So let me bring up 23andMe. You've heard of this company. Most people have 23, if you haven't heard of it, what they do is you send in a saliva sample, because I've done this, and they analyze your genetics and come back and they tell you all kinds of stuff that you probably may have already known. Some of it, you sleep later, you're more likely to baldness. These people are your relatives. That's the interesting part to me. But with the human genome, which was decoded, it's kind of a growing thing where, like, we don't know what this part of the genome does, but 10 years from now, we may know what it is. So with them holding, I don't know how many millions of people they have on their database, but they go into bankruptcy. So in bankruptcy, they're going to sell off their assets. Therefore, somebody can buy the mapped human genome for 6 or 7 or how many millions of people. Now, at a glance, you say, well, do I care? Do I not care? Most people probably care a little bit on this. I see some positives. This is going to be strange. I see some positives on this in that 10 years from now, there may be a medicine that applies to a certain condition that's genetic. Whoever owns that database could reach out to all the people that have that gene issue. And it could turn into sales, but of course they're trying to help you. I mean, that's the downside, or the positive side. The downside is, I mean, it's your genetic information. So guess what? If this would be scary, but let's just say your father's not who you think your father is, or things like that. There could be some blackmail. There could be things like that. But here's what I really wanted to come out of this article with today is there is a way to delete your information. So if you have not, or if you're concerned, the instructions are here on the screen. You can just search it. But basically, you can go into your 23andMe account, sign in, settings, blah, 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 and delete it, and delete your information off their account. So if you want to do that, I have not done that or decided that I'm going to do that yet, but mine is definitely out there. Another interesting article. Oh, Corey, have you done 23andMe?
No, never done it.
Well, you never know what you'll find out on this kind of thing. You might find out that, you're related to somebody you know.
1% Martian or something.
What is it?
That 1% Martian maybe, or
Oh, yeah, that is a good point. It is a cool thing. It showed, I want to say I was like 65% English or something. I thought I had a lot of German in me, but I don't.
Huh.
Of course, there's, so it's cool to see where your ancestors migrated
Yeah.
from Europe or wherever. So that was one cool thing. I did find out that I had, relatives that I didn't know that were like even as close as like second cousins. So, when it's a second cousin, you can kind of track it back to your grandparents. They weren't close, but as far as like for me to meet with, but I could email them and things like that. So I mean, there are some cool things with it. You know, it'd be kind of wild, Corey, if you did it and you're like, oh wow, this guy's your brother, and you're like, whoa, I have a brother I didn't know about. So, anyways. The other article I thought was kind of interesting, GameStop. If you remember the meme stock mania from just a few years ago, GameStop and AMC were the big two that were jumping all over the place. GameStop comes out and they said they're going to put corporate cash into Bitcoin like MicroStrategy. So if you remember, like a year ago, I said GameStop, which barely sells games anymore because everybody can download their games. I said, really what they should do is become a cryptocurrency education center and rename maybe CoinStop or Coin something, figure out something with coin in there. And, but it looks like they're doing something with it. And look what their stock's doing, 11% when this article came out, but I'll pull it up. Their stock is, let's see, up, still 11, still about 10 and a half. So it's going to jump around because this is news. The GameStop in my town, which I had not visited in like 5 years plus when my kids were young, it shut down. So like I drove by it the other day. It was just, you could see the building was there, or the part of the building was there, and it shut down because most games nowadays are downloaded. So you don't need to go there in person. That being said, this company still is not bankrupt. That was the thesis on why it jumped, is because everyone said this thing is definitely going to go bankrupt, and then people did what's called a short squeeze, and that's what caused the stock to jump all over the place. I'll look at a 5-year graph, and you can see that it there's the big surge there and then down, but overall you would not want to be in this stock based on everything about the company. It's trades based on momentum, I would say. But anyways,
hey, what's the market cap on it now? Oh, okay,
12
wow,
billion.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's a good sized company. So
Anyways,
anyways,
they're sitting on 4.3 billion in cash.
yep, exactly. So they're going to take their cash. We'll see how much Bitcoin they buy with it. MicroStrategy, Michael Saylor would say this is a good strategy to do because that Bitcoin will go up in value. So if they put in, let's just say they put in $3 billion into it and Bitcoin goes up 100x, this becomes a big company just based on what's on their balance sheet, not on their actual fundamental business. So anyways, I thought it was interesting.
They would have gone. So what's funny and kind of cool they would have gone bankrupt a couple of years ago, but when they became a meme stock overnight, basically, and there was that massive short squeeze, they issued a bunch of shares, and then there was another sort of squeeze with somebody posted a meme of a kitty or something, and then it got squeezed again last year, and they actually issued like 50% more shares again. So they were just dumping shares. That's where all their money has come from, is selling shares, not even selling product. They would have already been bankrupt if not for that.
So I mean, I think it's a great point. So what they do is when the stock goes up, they issue shares. So let's just say you owned 2% of the shares of GameStop and they issued an equal number of shares. You now only own 1% of the shares. So they dilute their shareholders, which is not a motivation to hold them for that cash. So you're right. That's the only reason they have that money, is they did that. So anytime you see someone issuing shares to dilute the shareholder, as a shareholder, you're like, well, this isn't a good deal. You're kind of taking my money out of it. So anyways, not a company I'd invest in, but certainly had some interesting stories with, what was it? It's something Kitty. I can't remember.
Roaring Kitty.
With Roaring Kitty, and there was a movie that came out last year, and it was it's very interesting to watch. Watch the movie. There you go. Instead of putting $28 into GameStop, go ahead and download the movie and watch that, and you'll understand why you probably don't want to invest in it. But with that, Corey, I'm not hungry yet, but I don't have $20 on me, so I'm looking to get some food for lunch. Is there any way, Corey? Is there any way I can get lunch and not have to pay for it today?
What is today?
Today's Wednesday.
Today's the 26th. Waiting a few more days for that check to hit on the 1st of the month, right?
Yep.
Hold on, before I get to the buy now, pay later on your lunch, and me and Mike can laugh about that. just a quick commodity check. We haven't looked at this in a few months. This is the energy side of things. And again, I'm kind of looking at those year over year. So oil, Brent, those are both down about 14% year over year. Natural gas up quite a bit, but it's a pretty niche market. The way it's used in the United States economy, it should be used more, and there's a lot of it out there. So we'll see what happens with that. That one's not really worrisome that it's up. And again, some of these are less important. We won't talk about all of them. Going to the metals, though, the metals have still been strong. Gold above 3,000 per ounce. And then copper coming out of a pretty long base. So that's been a very new breakout. Look at the monthly on copper. Geez, 15%. Wow. Okay, some of those agricultural, and we're going to look at an index in a second. But, look at the monthly charts. So there were some concerns. There was like concerns about sugar, cocoa, and something else. Well, we'll get to eggs in a minute, but sugar and cocoa on this side of things. And look what they've been doing. Oh, and orange juice down 10% in the past month. Sugar now is down 13% year over year. Cocoa down 11% in the past month. So we're seeing a lot of softness in many of those. And that's what happens in commodities. If something gets hot, I mean, if eggs get hot enough, I'm buying a chicken coop and buying,
Oh my gosh.
I'm doing what I need to do, right?
Hey,
so that's what happens with commodities.
Gold being so hot, I expect you to have a metal detector out in your backyard.
For looking for eggs?
No, for gold.
Oh, gold, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what happens with commodities, right? If it gets hot enough, people will come out of the woodwork to put some on the market. And that's what you've seen. Look at eggs. On month over month, down 63%. Still up 25 in the past year, but that's what happens. So here's an index. What happens when you merge a lot of that stuff together? Over the past year, up 3%. And that's pretty close to being in line with our other inflation numbers that we get, which of course includes housing and more. But, it's still a commodity index is an interesting thing to monitor. We're not seeing rapid inflation. All right, here's what Mike was joking about. DoorDash partners with Klarna. Klarna is a buy now, pay later company, so that those U.S. customers can get more convenience when you're ordering your burrito for lunch. Mike, do you think this is just what the American consumer needs, is 4 equal payments to get that lunch delivered to your house, or do you think this is a little bit too much?
I think this takes advantage of people that can't pay for their lunch right in the moment, and that's dangerous people to take advantage of. I think this is overkill. I mean,
yeah, I'm with you. That's the perfect word. This is crazy. This is crazy. So, but it's an interesting article, and I mean, it's exactly what you think it is. Somebody wants that burrito, they can get it in 4 equal payments now.
I would say log into your kid's DoorDash account if they have one and disable this option. I mean, I would get this off because, people make that decision. They're hungry. I'm so hungry. I got to have that food right now. I don't have any cash. Let me go ahead and pay this out. And you better believe they're going to have interest tacked on here and things like that. So probably 29%.
It does say on bullet 2, pay in 4 equal interest-free installments. Now, what happens when you don't make your installment, right? Then that's where it's no longer your friend.
Yep.
All right, that's all I had, Mike, today. That's just if anybody didn't see that, pretty interesting story out there.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody. We'll be back tomorrow with the first results of the stock March Madness pool. I will tell you that I've seen a variety of stocks picked, but it's almost like the Mag 7, you're going to see there's a lot of Mag 7 stocks in there. So if you see, I think Tesla's in today, I can't remember who's doing it, but it'll be at today's close is what I'll look at. So it will have the first results. So thanks everybody.